Exciting episode of Relational Leadership, where we bring you advice and our collection of ideas from our own experiences to help you with your experiences in life that you can use to become leaders that others want to follow. My name is Stephanie Clements.
And I am Stephanie's co-host, Shawn Dawley. And today we are honored to be visited by Mr. Jimmy Smith, the operating principal here at Keller Williams of Louisville. But once upon a time, before he was an operating principal, was an assistant principal at Seneca High
I'm
School.
hearing a theme here in titles,
Right,
but
right.
some very different
Yes.
roles, though.
And a man of profound principle who's going to talk with us a little bit about his leadership journey. It seems like no matter how hard this guy tried, people kept putting him into positions of authority, gave him a lot of responsibility. So Jimmy, let's start. If you would like to introduce yourself, let the audience know who's talking with them, and then we'll get into some Q&A, and we'll try to pull the curtain back on all those skeletons you got buried back in there.
Yeah, there's a few. I don't want to talk about them, but thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Stephanie, for having me. Jimmy Smith, Keller Williams Louisville, and now operating partner here. So I've been in this role since January. October, tapped on the shoulder to be the team leader, and then migrated into the operating principal a few months later. Prior to that, I've almost 10 years in education with Jefferson County Public Schools, and then ended my career there as an assistant principal at Seneca. Throw in an assistant college baseball coach, a high school baseball coach, team captain, CEO of the house. My wife, if y'all know my wife, she's smarter and better looking than I am. I was tasked with running the house for a little bit. So just a lot of different opportunities to lead different groups of people in different capacities.
Okay. And, when you say that you are the CEO formally of the house, I'm reminded that even the CEO answers to the chairwoman of the board.
Right.
So we all answer to somebody. So, Jimmy, in the time that we have here today, you've obviously had a pretty good ride. And we've talked already about, the number of leadership jobs you've had. So maybe talk to us a little bit about, having been a leader within youth athletics, been a leader in college sports, been a leader in a school system, and now a leader in real estate.
Yep.
What are some common trends that you see in leadership, generically speaking? And what are some of the lessons you learned that informed your leadership ethos today?
Well, probably the biggest thing that I try to articulate to people that I'm around is that everyone's a leader.
Okay.
And you hear that a lot, well, I'm not really a leader, there's always an opportunity to lead. And at minimum, you have to lead yourself, right? So it starts there.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you want to be a follower or not. You've got to lead your own life. Then you're a parent, a father, a spouse, a clergyman, an HOA, whatever. There's leadership has to happen at some level in your existence, right?
Yeah.
And when we understand that, and then we become intentional about it, and it feels sometimes overly disciplined or overly structured, but I think it's very valuable to know that, hey, the decisions that I make are going to influence whatever it is that I want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I want to be healthy, so I'm going to have to lead myself and motivate myself to get into the gym.
Okay.
Want to be a better father. I'm going to have to read. I'm going to have to talk to. I'm going to have to observe other fathers that are doing similar things. So that's the first thing. It's like everyone's a leader. You might not be leading a Fortune 500 company, but you're leading something.
That's right.
And a lot of times we have no idea who's influenced by us and who is actually following
Right.
our lead.
Exactly.
We're living our lives, and if you're doing things right, you will have people who notice it and at least are admiring you from afar, whatever. So our examples definitely impact other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jimmy, I like how I'm in accordance with you on your view that people lead at all levels. And even throughout some of my go-to examples, which is like the homeowner association, right? So you got homeowners association at one end, you got Fortune 100 companies at the other. And then you mentioned how you took deliberate steps to grow and develop within those leadership roles. Mm-hmm. So whether you're leading yourself, leading, like you said, as a father, you get to, ask other mentors, read, Did you start out in your career knowing somehow, some way, I will always be in a leadership role, or did you find yourself in those roles and then think, wait a minute, where's the instruction manual? Somebody believes in me enough to do this, but I got some things I got to check off the list here before I'm ready.
Yeah, that's you hit it spot on. Like I never really sought leadership roles. They sought me for whatever reason. You know, like the first leadership role I can think of is team captain in high school. Right?
Okay.
And I'm barely 6 foot tall, white guy, brown eyes, named James. So I'm about as average as they come. So I mean, and someone asked me this question the other day, and I will circle back to it. But yes, I've always been like cast as the leadership figure. People, for whatever reason, I question everybody else's judgment, but you know, people turn to me and like, you know, hey, let's go. When I was a teacher, I almost instantly became the department head after 2 years. My third year, I was put on a team to run a turnaround for the school. When I left that school, went to another school to teach, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you should really get into leadership. Why don't you run our after school recovery program? Okay, I'll do that. And then it was an assistant principal, and was well on a route to become a principal if I stayed in education. So and I say all that to think that the thing that I find is my leadership style or my leadership ethos is just consistency, showing up, being the same person every single day, a person that's growing, a person that's empathetic, a person that is present. And so,
and getting things done.
You know,
I mean, when you show up and you're getting things done,
yeah,
people start noticing those things.
Well, I don't personally get anything done. I mean,
well, if you delegate and make sure it gets done,
you got surround yourself with great people.
That's right.
But yeah, I just think, and you know, I've become more of a believer in the fact that the best leaders are the ones that show up and are present every single day.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? You know, because I agree with you, but we do live in a social media buzzword world. And if I had a nickel for every time I heard a leadership expert, wink, wink, say, it's so important that we show up as our authentic self, willing to speak our truth and create an environment of trust. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like that doesn't mean anything, right? So I know what being consistent, means. Like what are some of those things you said? What does that actually mean? And what does it look like to the people on the team?
I mean, and maybe I haven't got into the layers of this yet, but it literally, to me, it looks like showing up.
Okay.
I'm going to be here at 9:00. I'm here at 9:00 every day.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to call you back, or I'm going to respond to an email by the end of business day.
Yeah.
If there's activities that need to be done, I'm not afraid to model them. If I say, hey, we need to lead generate, this is what it looks like. Watch me do it.
Okay.
Those are the type of things that I think great leaders do. And also, there's more than one way to get downtown, right? But I think a lot of great leaders, they don't say they're leading. They're not like, hey, look at me, we got to go do this. It's questions, asking great questions of the people that are around you, asking great questions about the situation, come from curiosity, and just understand that it's a process. And as long as you're growing and moving forward, people are going to come with you. And if they don't, they're going to self-select to get out. So, it's almost, I wouldn't say lead by accident because it's very intentional. I do those things very intentionally. But what it looks like is being not saying that I'm trustworthy or saying that I'm honest, but being honest.
Right.
If you just live up to those basic little things every single day, they stack. It's like stacking chips, right? If you stack one on top of the other, you're going to be able to stack it pretty high.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you start out stacking it right. If the foundation is nice and solid, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we did a thing with in leadership and maybe one of our team meetings, and I got this from a guy named Skip Berkman at LSU, who led LSU in college baseball for years and then become the athletic director. You take a quarter and you bend it, right? And you stack. You have 50 of them. How many can you stack up in a row?
Oh boy, yeah.
And then, but if you start with that crooked one, you can't stack it.
That's right. That's right.
And you could maybe support one on top of a stack, but you're only going to be able to get one.
That's right.
So, is that stacking, that momentum, and it takes time. And if you show up as trustworthy, a lot of people are going to say, "Is he really trustworthy?" In the back of their mind, right?
Sure.
And then you just constantly are doing the same thing. And hey, I'm going to email you back. I'm going to show up when I
Yeah.
say I'm going to show up. And they realize, hey, that is who they are.
Sure.
They're not just a hype man.
So, yeah, well, I'll jump in now. So what did it look like for you? I mean, what made you decide to get out of the education system? And then did you know that, because your wife was already in real estate,
Mhm.
right? Because she
Yep.
was in education also.
She
correct?
was. Yep.
So she'd already gotten out and gone into real estate. So what made you decide to make that jump?
Those of you who know my wife know that there's tenacity and then what she brings to the table. So when we met, I realized that I was just being blessed to be around a very talented person. We both had two jobs. We're both workers. I was coaching baseball, working at a middle school, and had a landscaping company. She was bartending, working at a middle school and selling real estate. So we just did that. We wake up and we run, and we got married, started having kids. And what was the question? Why did I get out of education? Really, why I got out of education was we wanted to create a better situation in our house. We wanted to create a better situation where our life was around our business, not our business around our life, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we got really intentional, and she had created a business that was scalable and producing enough income where I could step out of education. And that's when I became the CEO of the house. Like my main role was to make sure that the kids are taken care of, food.
Yeah.
And then we get perfect timing because then COVID happened, right? And I had to do it anyways.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But yeah, so the move to get out of education wasn't necessarily for me to get more into real estate. It was create more air cover so that our kids are taken care of by our parents and not being outsourced to different activities
Sure.
and things like that. So
Okay. And now our understanding is a lot of people don't know this, but you were brought back in to consult on developing some sort of like school bus plan a couple of months ago.
Absolutely.
Was that,
Nope.
was
Had
that-
nothing to
oh,
do
that,
with
okay,
it.
okay, all
Had
right.
nothing to do with it.
All
All right,
Okay.
I'll have to update
If
your,
only.
I'll have to
Well,
update your Wikipedia page entry then. I just
Yes.
cranked that out before I showed it.
Yeah.
So
We need to put the disclaimer on
You
this.
can't,
So if you saw that 30 seconds, that was a lie. Yeah.
So I'm going to disallow you to talk about any role you have within your family, because I think you'd probably go to that one. What's the toughest leadership job you feel like you had at the stage of life you were at? Like, because there might be certain jobs you think, man, if I had the wisdom I had now, I could go back. That really wasn't that hard. But
Right.
but for whatever stage of life you were in, what is probably what you think to be the most difficult leadership assignment?
Or maybe felt the most intimidating.
I want to shape your statement or question a little bit more. I think the most crucial one I'm in is right now,
Okay.
leading this market center to where we're going to end up 2 or 3 years from now.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's really important that I get this right. I'm not necessarily intimidated by it, but it does have a level of not brevity, gravity,
Gravity, yeah.
gravitas.
Sure.
Because this is probably the most people I've been responsible for, and our growth trajectory is going to put 200 people in our market center, hopefully in the next
Oh, wow. Yeah.
12 months. So
And a lot of change,
and a lot of change in our real
a
estate
lot of
market.
dynamic
Yeah.
in the market right now.
There's a lot of things that I'm never going to be able to control in real estate.
That's right.
And it's probably, with technology and everything, the speed in which things change. So I'm leading not only through, and I wouldn't say it's truly a turnaround, but a change in trajectory of this market center and the shifting market and the shifting economics of real estate as a sales commission job that'll probably happen in the next 18 months.
Okay. Stephanie?
So, yeah, you kind of took on, because you and I've talked a lot about your role, and this is new for you this year, and you kind of took on something that was already not in the best of shape. So it really needed, these people were either going to stay or jump ship or whatever. And I know one of the things you said, don't judge by who I hire, judge by who I keep.
Right.
And finding that right leadership team can sometimes take
Mhm.
a little while to get in. So how are you working with that to make sure the right people are in place?
Well, the great thing about Keller Williams, that whether people know this or not, was it the burden of truth or the burden of knowledge? I assume everybody knows this. Keller Williams, why it is what it is because of what it does. And we have a great process for evaluating and hiring talented people in our organization. Starts with a personality assessment we call a KPA, and even has a like a scripted conversation on how to get through that process that's really deep. It's not a one-day interview. It's not a show up and, hey, I'm going to hire you. And I tell my team all the time, like, hey, we're going to figure it out. Let's get to work. And if it doesn't work, we'll get it off the wall and we'll put something else up and just keep moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. And just being, again, authentic, intentional, open-minded, having conversations. And Emma, our director of operations, who's also known as the director of all things and the knower of all things, but she actually, she's a great leader too. And she doesn't always give herself credit for it, but she also pulled me aside and said, hey, you hired a great group of people. Let us do our job. Yeah. So some of that is letting people, rise to where they're going to go on their own. So did I answer your question?
So all of us, there's like 10, 12 different sub jobs a leader has, right? And some of those things come easier to some of us than others, and some things we struggle with. So I'll first let you off easy and ask you, what do you think you are naturally pretty gifted at? What have you kind of perfected within the realm of leadership that you feel like is a strong leadership quality? And then once you answer that, you know what I'll be asking.
Can I say consistency again? I like to think I'm approachable. I have good energy. I think the one thing that I've developed that I'm most proud about is like my level-headedness. Okay. I don't get excited. I don't get too high or too low about anything. It's just something, right? Tom Brady talks about, not Tom Brady, Tom Brady in some degree, but a friend of mine, his name's Harry Wilson, talks about being neutral, having neutral thinking. The market is the market. We can't change that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just having that, it's really a learned ability to just be very calm, smooth, almost like the more people's emotions get higher, the lower I go. It's like it lowers my blood pressure. Oddly enough, I mean, if you cut your hand off right now, my blood pressure would be at its lowest point, which I think is, and I think about my growth as a person, and which has informed my leadership, is that has taken time. I used to be such a hothead, especially in sports. Like everything was boom, boom, boom. But just to be able to like intentionally lower my blood pressure, it's more stressful. Something.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that, because by personality, all of us have certain dispositions that we just naturally. I mean, we're born with them, right? But that's reassuring to people that are listening right now that think, you know what, I'm a leader and I really struggle with keeping my emotions in check. Sometimes I either get too low or I get too high, and I am pulled up and down by the circumstances.
Right.
So that helps a lot of people when they're listening, thinking, okay, what he's doing is an actual learned, developed skill, that can actually be perfected or at least improved upon. So while Stephanie is thinking about her next question, I'm now going to ask you to share with the audience, to the extent you're comfortable, what's something you think you still struggle with, that you're still working on, that you know you could be better at?
Gotcha. I can be better with numbers. Oddly enough, I'm a business owner, but numbers are not my strong suit. More casting vision and things like that are more of my strong suit. And my personality profile says that I'm really high on the optimism side versus the skepticism side. So everything works. So you come in an idea and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Put wheels on it, get it downhill. Let's go. Whereas a skeptic would be like, let's think about everything that's going to go wrong first, right? So probably I'm a little too forward in thinking something's going to work. I'm probably a little too liberal in thinking things are going to work. So if I get I did a leadership survey, and I wish I knew who said it, because I appreciate the feedback. I was accused of, once I get an idea in my head, it's get out of the way, it's going to happen. And I can see that. So I don't always listen to the naysayers of something or the possible what could go wrong. I'm like, yeah, but if we get it right, it's going to be amazing. Let's go.
Right.
So
right.
that's probably the one thing I struggle with the most, I think.
I got you. Okay, good.
Over level of optimism.
Well, and then like they say, Stephanie's teeing up her queries for you. You know, like in a lot of self-help programs, you know, recognition is the first step, right? You got to be aware you got the problem, right? So good.
Well, I
That's
can
good.
totally relate to that because, you know, I tend to get an idea and jump with it also. So I do, you know, and then 2 weeks later, you're like, that's something I probably should have thought about. So, yeah.
Well, and I don't mind failing forward. A lot of people are afraid of failure, and I'm not. I mean, it's part of life. It's going to happen.
So I know that right now, just with the real estate market the way it is, I feel like there are some places that just they're trying to hire anybody who is willing to do real estate. And I just am curious, what are your thoughts on, as you're recruiting and doing things to help yourself attracting what? Yes. Right. Not recruiting, attracting talent here. What do you look for in people? And then are there people that you go, this really isn't going to be your avenue? Spot. Yeah.
So I'm going to answer that in a couple of different ways. And one thing is Keller Williams franchise model is a growth model. Like we're a capped model, meaning we only make in the perfect scenario, an agent that comes into our market center, I have a cap on what revenue we can create. And then we profit share. So, and that number I'll just tell you is 17,000. So if an agent brings in 17,000, I get half of that, or I get 54% of that comes in as what's called company dollar profit. So we have to grow, and we have to grow people and grow producers. So we're always going to be a business that is attracting people. We're not going to attract or quote unquote recruit to a certain number and then stop. We've got to constantly be growing, because if we're not growing, then we're not bringing in more company dollar. And the way the market or the way real estate is, that bottom third is getting turned over every 2 years. So if we have 100 people, the bottom 35 people are going to be different every single year.
I got you. Yeah.
And then I go back to don't judge me by who I hire, but judge me for who I keep around. I think we continue to do a good job of raising our standards, and when we're really dialed in on saying, here is what we expect for people that are in our organization and in our ecosystem, they're either going to rise to that or leave. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And there's people that will come back that are at different seasons or stages of their life where they might be ready to hit that standard. So I will never turn my back on someone that wants an opportunity. Now, if you're not intentional and you're not deliberate and you're not authentic about your relationship with our market center, then obviously there's a cultural problem there, and you're going to have to go, right? Mm-hmm. But my job is not to hire or fire anybody. My job is to provide an opportunity, whether you take it or not. And if you don't want to take it, that's fine. There's another opportunity somewhere else. So and people evolve. So the person that I met 5 years ago might be different than the person that is today. They might respond to my leadership better than other people's leadership. So I am really discerning on who I want in my world. I'm also very open-minded to the idea of people can grow into my expectation as well. So Emma and I argue about this all the time. She's like, you'll bring in anybody. I'm like, yes, I will, but I'm not going to keep them forever if they don't fit.
Right. So you just mentioned about how people evolve, and even without the evolution, people are different. So some people might, from the outside looking in, look at the total number of agents, let's say, in the branch here, and think, well, an agent is an agent is an agent. But that they are people with different personalities, with different intrinsic and extrinsic motivations at different stages of their career, who are going through their own evolution. So when you are a leader and you've got such an eclectic mix of people, while staying consistent, which is a core value of yours, how do you provide that semi-tailored leadership to different people at different stages of their career with different, motivating variables?
Being flexible. One of my, and I'm using, I know you're military former military.
Former, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I tell, and I did this in I'm just thinking of this right now. That's why I'm having trouble articulating. I run air cover. That's my job as a
Okay.
leader. When I was a teacher, I ran air cover so the kids could learn. When I was an assistant principal, I ran air cover so the teachers could teach. When I was a first assistant coach, I ran air cover so the talent could be on the field, right? And that's all we're doing as leadership in a brokerage is we're running air cover so that you can go run your business how you want to run your business.
Okay.
So that for me to understand that I can't, everybody's not going to run their business the same way. There's more than one way to get downtown. So I'm going to say it again. I've just run air cover so you can run your business how you want. And that's what's, again, great about Keller Williams is that is Gary's business model is where entrepreneurs thrive. You can have a real estate business that's 100% predicated on digital media or 100% on open houses or 100% of your friends and family. So there's so many ways to run your real estate business and it's personal to each individual. I do not want to pick up a phone and cold call somebody.
Yeah.
I can go grab 5 people that are in the office back here that are excellent at it. And 60, 70% of their business comes from, cold internet leads. And that's great. There's a place for everybody. So I understand that there's more than one way to get downtown and that flexibility matters. But, we hold your license. We take care of all the brokerage stuff so that you can go be a sales professional.
Gotcha. Steph?
So how do you get some of these people who may not be naturally in sales, may not be naturally a people person, whatever,
Well,
but they want to do this,
Yeah.
do this job. What kind of tools do you have that you get to help them evolve into where they want to be?
Again, there's 100 different ones, right? So as a real estate professional, you really have 4 jobs. Practice writing your contracts, practice conversations, practice reports, everything. You just have to be practiced in the tactical things you have to do. 2, you have to lead generate. You have to lead follow up. And you got to stay in relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that closed deals is a part of that practice part,
Yeah.
right? So you got to be a people person, right? You can't do this job and not be a people person. This is a relationship business. These are relational transactions, right? Now, what we teach and what I believe in is leverage. So if you personally don't like to lead generate, you've got to have business coming in, right? So then you go hire a lead generation company. You pay Zillow for leads. You outsource that. So whatever it is that you don't like to do, you got to outsource it. You got to leverage it. So now, if you want to be in real estate and you don't want to negotiate contracts, you're probably going to have to hire a sales associate, right? You're going to have to be the operations side.
Right,
So that's hard to start in real estate with no real estate sales experience. But, again, all those things can be learned. We have a saying in here at Keller, and I think it's universal. It's simple, not easy.
Yeah. Well, sure. Just like it's simple to know that I'm supposed to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, but sometimes it gets kind of hard. So the way
Drink that 8 glasses of water,
you painted and I know that it's not sequential. You got everything kind of always going at once, but your practice, lead generation, lead follow-up, and relationships. So if I'm building a deck in the backyard, at the end of every day, I can see tangible progress, right? I know that the activity in which I was engaged, now the footers are down. Now the framing is there. Now I'm putting on the deck boards. Now I'm putting on the railing. Now I'm putting on the baluster. Now I'm staining it. But in what you do, lots of times it's hard to like truly quantify. Like it's hard to really hit a metric. Okay, at the end of the day, I've done something, and you can really put it down to the decimal point. So how do you estimate whether or not an activity will have some value that's pushing your business forward? And because there's probably 500 hours of networking events you could go to every week,
right?
And you've got to decide in my finite time, where do I spend my time and energy? So how do you make that assessment about if something's going to really help you further your career ambitions?
Right. And so I guess I feel like there was 3 things I was wanting to hit on. One is that is actually intentional sequential. you got to practice first. If you can't write a contract, you can't have a conversation, you don't know how to deal with an obstacle of a phone call or a buyer walking in the door and saying, hey, I want to write a contract today. You haven't practiced to the ability to do the job or do the work.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yes, then you got to lead generate. If you're not practicing your conversations, you're not practicing writing contracts, you're not practicing negotiations, what the hell does lead generating have to do with anything, right? You're not going to be able to close anything.
Yeah,
once
you'll
get
be
there.
like the dog that caught the car.
Yeah.
Like, well, now what?
Now what? Yeah. And then you do those three, and then you follow up with any leads, and then you stay in relationship with those customers for life, or those clients for life. So it was intentionally sequential.
Okay.
The other part of that is it's really hard. It's faith, right? You have to have faith. Here's the two parts were: one, you have to have faith, and two, our organization does a great job informing us of some information. For example, the last bit, through data analytics, we know that if you have 201 people in your database and you communicate with them 36 times a year, on average, you're going to create $100,000 of gross commission.
Okay. Okay.
Those are
yeah.
the math is mathing, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So our organization, Keller Williams, does a great job with data analysis and getting us this information.
Okay.
The average number of people in your database for people to net $1 million in real estate is, I'm going to get in trouble for not remembering this. It's either 1692 or 1962, but there's an actual number that on average, if you have that many people in your database, that's how much money you make. So it's faith for me. It's faith for a lot of people. My faith is based on knowledge that standing on the shoulders of giants gave me, right? Yeah. But it's faith. It's just like working out. You intrinsically believe that if I work out 30 minutes a day, I'm going to be a healthier person.
Yeah.
I think everybody believes that, right?
Faith and
That's right.
consistency.
Yeah.
We're back to your consistency, right?
But if you show up to the gym and work, hold on. If I show up 30 minutes a day, what if I do 5 hours today? Then I should be able to see some results, right?
Yeah.
So you go in there for 5 hours and nothing. And then what happens the next day? You're so sore you can't even work out.
Then I'm going to spend 10 hours in the ER.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But it's after 6 months of doing it for 30 minutes a day for 4 to 5 days a week, you look down and go, man, I've got abs. Well,
right.
My wife's been on a health journey lately, and all of a sudden, like that. I mean, she was very consistent, and then all of a sudden, it's like boom,
came into focus.
There's some competing factors, but I think ultimately it was the discipline over a long period of time that created that change. And she looked beautiful before, but that time on task over time is so important.
Okay.
And so that's, again, being consistent.
Yeah.
You don't know when the harvest is going to come. You can
That's right.
You can just put the seeds in the ground.
That's well
That's
said,
it.
buddy.
It is consistency. And I mean, you talk about working out and they say, the more muscle that you have, then the easier it gets because it's doing some work, behind the scenes for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does take that time. And they also say, I've always heard if you can sell anything. You just have to learn what you're selling.
Right.
But if you have the personality that, you hear those people, if, Eskimo they could sell ice to Eskimos and whatever, just because they have that intrinsic ability to communicate and draw people in. Do you see, like when you are looking to attract new talent, are there certain types of positions and things like that you see are generally natural salespeople or those kinds of people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are people that are versed in selling. They're usually high drivers. They're high intensity, high problem solving kind of profiles. I will say, and this is probably unpopular, and I'm going to challenge what you just said. I don't think real estate is a sales job. If sell me this pen, the whole, sell me this pen. You're not going to be able to take somebody to a house and convince them to buy a house.
Yeah.
They've already decided they're going to buy a house.
Right.
You're just going along with them to facilitate that transaction.
Yeah.
And being the informed advisor and being the professional of choice, right? What we're selling is ourselves.
Sure.
And it's over a course of time, data says around 11 or 8 competing weeks before someone decides they're going to get actionable about buying or selling a house is 8 to, so January 1st, 8 weeks before then, they started really getting active about it.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you're not the person that they're thinking about when that happens, it's like the egg, right?
Yeah.
When the baby comes out of the egg and sees his mom, and that's who it attaches to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you hit that 8 to 11 week window, if you're not thinking about me as your real estate agent of choice,
Yeah.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. You might open the door up for someone else to be the real estate agent of choice. And, we do it every day. We talk about selling transactions. We're going to close close to 1,500 transactions in our brokerage this year. But the normal consumer only transacts 3 times. So that's, 15 years between transactions. So
Yeah.
we're doing it every day, and we forget that, everybody's not thinking about real estate all the time.
Right. Well, Jimmy, we appreciate you being here. We are pretty much out of time, but I know it goes fast when you're having fun, right? But I think you've gotten some valuable tips in the process. And if you are considering a career in real estate, tell us exactly how they can find you.
Well, we got a Facebook page. My email address is jimmy@kw.com.
Pretty simple.
Yep. We're at the old Caden Tower, the new Wright Tower.
Right Tower.
Yeah.
I just saw that on the news last night.
Search at KW Louisville and Facebook and Instagram. I guess that's about it. And I do want to leave with some tidbit is like, this is a journey. Like there's a few things I'm struggling with right now. It's life's an ebb and flow. Don't get here. Don't get here. Be right there in the middle. Hey, you know what? I'm in probably not where I want to be health-wise right now, but I know it, and I'm constantly working on how do I get to being better about it, right? And it's not going to kill me, but so if somebody looks up at you, if you're leading people, you got to be honest and say, look, hey, I'm struggling with this right now, but here's how I want to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to appreciate that, and you got to grow yourself. Well, I'm constantly growing myself, so we're modeling that too. So wherever you are, it can change, and you're always going to be changing as long as you're pouring into yourself.
That's great words of advice, Jimmy. And I will share with the people watching and then listening later on the podcast platforms that, my leadership journey was similar to yours. It wasn't a deliberate plan, but for whatever reason, I would get put into these positions of responsibility. So if you're listening and you feel like, okay, I keep getting asked to take on a leadership role, don't ever dismiss the job. Don't say, well, I'm only the co-captain of my JV volleyball team. Well, I'm only the treasurer. They only asked me to do this at my homeowners association. Right. Whether or not you feel like you are ready, if people are asking you to step into leadership roles, it's because they believe that you are ready enough. And so like Jimmy here, you can hear in what he was saying that once he figured that out, he began to take positive, proactive steps to develop all of those essential but intangible leadership skills. So I would encourage people, if you feel like you keep getting tapped on the shoulder saying, hey, can you take charge? It's because people see something in you, even if you're not the first one to see it yourself. Right. And so, embrace that challenge and grow and develop. And the only person you got to be better than is the person you were yesterday.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we appreciate you again joining us. And if you enjoyed this or got some good information, we also appreciate you following us on Spotify and Audible and Apple podcasts. So we appreciate any of your support. Also share it with your friends, and we will see you again next week.
See you next week.